Welcome back to the second season of Refuse Ordinary. We're so happy you joined us today. So with me today, I have some very special guests. I have Blaine Sem. He's in level 3 of the School of Transformation. And I have Johnny Bowers. He's a level 1 leader at the School of Transformation. So welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. So,
very honored to be here.
Yeah, this is cool. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about some of your story, Blaine. And because you recently did a testimony video about sharing a little bit of your story. You in this testimony, you shared about how you were in a lot of brokenness and trapped by your struggles and walking away from your faith and just kind of life falling apart. And then you met Jesus and your world did a 180. And that's been a whole journey of walking out his forgiveness and forgiving yourself and learning to love yourself and stuff and family reconciliation, all kinds of things. And so would you mind telling us a little bit more about that, about your story? And then, let's just start a little bit about where you were at and then go into the transformation that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with my story, there's a lot to it. And I think it goes back to that I was raised in church and I knew what I was supposed to do. And it was funny too, you say testimony. I would be the guy in church for 8 years that was like, hey, these guys have great testimonies. I'm just the guy that just kind of didn't have anything cool to say, right? Yeah. And then, I think it was like 8 years into my Christianity, and it was an okay Christianity. I'd probably typical American Christianity of just trying to do the right things, right? Yeah. Pray and read every day, and be faithful to your spouse, and be a good dad, right? And what I didn't see back then was probably that I was really doing it out of my own strength, right? And for me, I started taking control into my own hands and being like, well, you know what, this isn't working, so I'm gonna try something else. And so I allowed sin into my life and just to be vulnerable. And I'm very ashamed of it, obviously, is I cheated on my wife. I broke my kids' hearts. She even took me back after for a couple of years. But that sin just that what I thought was a real relationship with Jesus just wasn't.
Okay.
It just wasn't, and it was a performance-based Christianity. Yeah. And so that came out in the wrong ways and dysfunction, and so I committed the ultimate sin of cheating on my wife, and it broke my marriage, and all of a sudden after we had gotten back together, she decided to leave.
Okay.
And I was on pain meds at the time, so I was deceived into thinking that it was okay to take what I was taking, but really I was addicted. She saw that. I wouldn't listen to her. She decided to leave, and it tore my world apart. Yeah. I no longer looked to Jesus. I no longer looked to religion. I didn't even go to church anymore. I was drumming every Sunday.
Yeah.
I've preached a few times in the church on a Thursday, and so all of a sudden I said, I just discarded Jesus.
Yeah.
And I just started to numb more and more. I started smoking weed. I started going to the bar every night once my divorce papers came and said, you're single by the state of California.
Wow.
And it's just like, you know what? I'm get mine. Right. Yeah. So I went to the bar every night and, taking, different people home. And then all of a sudden it wasn't even just that. It was the different drugs I was taking. It was, weed became cocaine became meth.
Wow.
And that was something I never thought I would ever touch in my whole life. I was a good Christian kid with a good testimony, right?
Yeah.
How'd you get that far?
Like I'm supposed to be like raising kids in orphanages and planting churches across the world. And here I am, destroying my life, losing my family situation or my living situation, lost 3 jobs.
Yeah.
My visits with the kids were no longer quality. It was all about me.
Yeah.
And I became homeless.
Wow.
And I guess there's homeless out there that have had it worse than me. I was living out of my car, but still homeless and just no trust. My grandparents, my mother, no one trusted me and discarded me and don't even come into my house to use a restroom. Because I was just doing drugs in the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. And there came a point where it's like I really thought about taking my own life. However, I
Yeah.
felt trapped in that because I didn't want to take my own life and then my kids
Mhm.
not have a father.
Right.
You know, my dad died when I was 2, so I was like, how
Yeah.
could I do that to them? So I felt
Yeah.
trapped in this place of emptiness, and
Wow.
it was one day in the car. I was like, I do know a solution,
Yeah.
but it would mean I need to acknowledge Jesus again. And like I was high, so I was like, what is this worth? I was like, I need to try.
Yeah.
And so one morning I said, you know what, Jesus, I said the prayer.
Yeah.
And immediately a lot of the shame started lifting.
Wow.
Like a big weight, like that
Yeah.
first weight of just like all my sin.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I see you, son, and I want you.
Yeah.
And then it was a journey of recovery. Now I had to find a recovery place. I needed to stop doing drugs, you know. And so I went down to LA, tried a recovery program down there. I had some good worship down there. I came back up to the Bay Area and went to a place there.
Yeah.
And things just didn't really fit. And I
Okay.
think Jesus really had a plan for me to come here to Orville because my ex-wife worked for a company here that was connected to Helping Hands, which is our volunteer recovery kind of workforce, and Helping Hands was soon I was on Helping Hands here, and so this is a really good program up here. So and it was close to the kids versus LA being 10 hours away.
Right.
And so anyway, coming here the first day I met Nick Zeppi, and it was at the life group, right? And it's like 50 guys in one room. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like I had been clean for about a month and a half already. And I'm like, oh, this is a lot of and they just kept saying like, you found the gold, you found the jackpot here.
Yeah.
But they didn't say it was Jesus.
Just interject. For those who don't know, Father's House Church has a recovery program.
Yes.
Life Recovery Ministries, which is awesome. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
12-month program.
Yes.
And for me, where I've really started to see the turn was when I saw Jesus in the men that were leading me.
Okay.
And I never had that my whole life. I never had men that actually like took me under their wing and said, do what I do.
Right.
Instead, it was always like, do what you think is right, or I'm going to preach something to you, or, just get what you can out of this message and make the changes necessary on your own. That just wasn't working for me. And so as I began to follow men like Johnny, he was my level leader and level 1. I was still really insecure after my 12-month program, and Johnny helped me kind of reacclimate to the world. He called me out on a lot of my stuff, and it's like you're not being real. You're putting on masks. You're doing all these, and for me, that's just what I knew to do. Perform and people please. And
I think that if I could say anything, it's just that when we're in church, you can be still around people, but still be alone.
Yeah.
Right. If you're not being discipled or seeking out community, seeking out people that are going after something solid, you can still be alone. And it's like Blaine's story is he was around a bunch of Christians, yet still had these moments of where temptation would creep in and little compromises would creep in. And you're in that place by yourself. And so it's like where he comes into level 1, it's like we're all up in his business in a good way, right? We're gaining relationship, we're gaining trust with each other, and everything's out in the open so that he can have that 180 conversion from being somebody that went from living in a car to now be playing on the worship band again after just years of just him putting in the work and just being led by Jesus and being led by men that are trustworthy and gaining relationship.
And I think for me, it's the biggest thing is my kids. When I think about the story and the fruit of my life, what do I want? I want my kids to know Jesus.
That's right.
Because if I know for me, without Jesus, I would literally be homeless, have nothing. And for what would my life's value, my life's worth be? What would the best response to Jesus be for all that he's doing for me? Like, being clean, being sober, being free of sin, being free of all the shame is great. But what can I do for him? And what is my response to him? Well, that doesn't just come overnight. The change is in my trust, in who I trust. trusting myself, being trustworthy, being allowed that in my life. Like my living situation, I have a place for my kids to come visit on the weekends. That's amazing. And my kids have seen that consistency and they see that fruit. And they're like, wow, these people do trust my dad. I can trust my dad too.
Yeah.
My identity in who Jesus is and the Father. I'm like, hey, I am a son. Hey, I have a purpose in life. And I don't have to believe the lies that the enemy has. That like, no, you're not worth it. You're rejected. You're same old story. Like, no, I have purpose in my life and I'm called here for a reason. And I get to tell my kids that.
Yeah.
And they get to see that fruit and they get to participate in all the mud run. They get to participate in Lights of Hope and they come expecting that now. And so for me, like, hey, like I can't say I've changed 180 degrees because I'm still changing.
Right.
Right. I think that's the hardest part about preparing for this today is like, I don't see much change, but you know who does see change is my kids.
Yeah.
My mom, my mother, who was like, you're not allowed here anymore.
Right.
Comes to me for advice on my siblings. Yeah. Blaine, can you help me pray for them? Blaine, what should we do? Do they need to come to Orville?
Yeah.
I said, Mom, you know, let's just trust Jesus, right? The one thing that we always get told, let's just trust Jesus. I tell Mom, I'm trusting Jesus.
Yeah.
Let's trust Jesus in this situation. And he comes through.
Yeah.
He comes through for them. And I never thought that I would be that place for my parents.
Yeah.
You know? So God knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And as I still change, I'm just really looking forward to what's next. You know, I'm in level 3. There's so much more to go.
Yeah.
Further up, further in, right?
Yeah.
And just start saying, and it's like I see, like, there's always the temptation of like looking that way, but it's like, nope, I'm going this way.
Yeah.
You know, because doing it for my kids, but like really, and this is the change that's happening now.
Yeah.
Is Jesus worth me giving up everything now? Yeah. Every little bit of me.
Yeah.
Even if like nothing else was on the table, like even if like my kids weren't on the table, is he enough?
Yeah.
To keep changing.
Yeah.
And in that, he's showing me some pretty cool stuff.
That's
cool. Yeah. There's a lot there.
That's amazing. I mean, that's like it's like miraculous. Just that, like, from living in your car and not having contact really with your kids to like here on a podcast telling other people about where you're at and like just that whole transformation of like that's just a miracle. Like, it's amazing. And just your life is just a testimony of the Lord's love and pursuit of his children, which is so cool.
Yeah. You know, I was really lazy back in the day and had I was unreliable and didn't work any hours when I was homeless. And now I work 18 hours a day. Yeah. I'm in the SOT Light department, which is great because I love teaching. And I used to work in a career of teaching. I get to be in maintenance and get to be with really cool people like Kurt and Nolan and learn from them every day. Get to learn electrical, right? Yeah. And so that's another shift of my day. And then I have Taco Bell at night. And I get to minister to the world through nacho cheese. It's great. You know, and so in that, like, I'm also learning something there and like giving my life away. And what does that earn me? It earns me an amazing time with my kids.
Yeah.
You know, and
that's so cool.
I never thought I'd have that. Like, for the first time, I actually feel like I have my 14-year-old son back.
Yeah.
It was his birthday this past weekend, and I got to tell him about when he was born.
Yeah.
And how he was so healthy that night that they let him stay in the room with us when they usually take him to the nursery. Right? Yeah. And so I held him in that daddy chair next to the bed in the hospital room, right? And I held him on my chest all night, and I told him, I said, "Son, that was the best day of my life."
Yeah.
And I think that'll be a story he'll remember.
Yeah.
And but for the first time, I in 5 years, I definitely feel like I got my son back.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. So Johnny, I know some of your story too, and you also have a pretty crazy story of going one way and the other and experiencing Jesus. Yeah. And now you're a pastor at the Father's House Church and leading level 1 students, but there was a change that happened there. So would you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, my testimony was I was the singer of a heavy metal band, and I would just played music all my life and I had long hair and I was crazy and just screamed and, were metal and scary. And
I wish I knew.
It doesn't really matter. It's like Blaine says, like he grew up in church and I didn't grow up in church. I grew up raised by bikers and, just a fast lifestyle of rock and roll. And, but the solution is the same, that Jesus meets us wherever we're at and brings us to this decision moment in our lives where, will you follow me or will you not? Mm-hmm. Will I be real and drop everything and pick up my cross and follow him? And I think I was at that crossroads where many people have been, where I was just tired of the life that I lived. Yeah. It wasn't fulfilling. Yeah. Even with the success that we were having wasn't fulfilling. I still had self-hate and I still have confusion about what is my life? What am I doing with my life? And it was just like in that moment with meeting Jesus, will you follow me? Yeah, I'll try it. I've tried everything else. I've tried it. Yeah. And so it's like, I still don't like my life. So let's give this a shot. And I realized that he was real. He became real to me. And it was just, I kind of never left. I never looked back. Yeah. I sold all my band equipment, sold my van, quit my job, quit my band, and just said, I'm going after this Jesus guy to see what it's all about. And my life just blossomed. My life just became something that I actually enjoyed. I liked myself. I liked what I saw in the mirror instead of just feeling self-hate all the time. And it's crazy. If anybody ever asked like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? They said pastor, I would have called him a liar. It's like, I would never have ever thought that would be the thing for my life. I kind of was banking on the fact that I was just going to be a washed up rock and roller until I died, but I just love my life. I love being able to just lead other men out of the depths of hell that they were in, just like me and Blaine. We've done a lot of work together. Yeah. And now we're friends, and it's not like he's just my student. He's one of my friends. Yeah. And it's the joy of scar for him. Yeah, he did. He was helping me remodel my house and shot a piece of tile at his face. Yeah, that's great. Yes. That's metal. That's metal. Yeah. 15 stitches later, just blood everywhere. But Jesus just changed my life. He brought me to my knees and brought me to this decision to follow him. And it's the best decision I ever made. Yeah. That's so cool. Both your stories are so powerful, and I feel inspired, and I'm sure everyone listening feels inspired as well, that these places you were at, which were both very different, but like Jesus met you and now you're like full steam ahead this way, and like it's such a hopeful story, even like, cause it was from both in such places of like no hope, or like the future didn't really look so bright, or you didn't like allow yourself to dream very big, right. To like insert Jesus and suddenly the whole world opens up in like this passionate, powerful pursuit of something bigger, and you are both changing people's lives, and you have a powerful testimony, and that's really cool. So thank you both so much for being on this podcast. This is really cool. If you guys have any questions about this topic, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Visit our website or come visit us in person. We'd love that. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us at Refuse Ordinary. I hope that it was both challenging and inspiring in your walk with Jesus. If you have any questions at all, please comment below. We would love to hear from you. I have 3 different ways in which you can get involved at the School of Transformation. First, we have our flagship full-time in-person school right here in beautiful Oroville, California. Next, I have School of Transformation Light, which offers part-time modules, in-person and online on Sunday mornings. Last but not least, I have School of Transformation Light on the Move, which distills all the topics and teachings of the school into a video series, which means that you can watch it wherever you are. If you have any questions or would like more information on any of these options for school, please head to transformationschool.org.